to 1100 WSGI, and this is Lee Marie with a special edition Go Show with Wild Doc. Let's go to the Lord in prayer. Heavenly Father, thank you so much. You are so amazing. You are so good. Thank you for answered prayers today. We ask you to take this show where you want it to go. Guide our steps today. Please, we ask for wisdom and discernment. We thank you for guiding us. We love you. We praise you. We need you. In the mighty name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
Wild Doc.
How we doing, Lee
is
Marie?
In the house.
Yep. So.
And I'm glad Laverne mentioned to her listeners that you have a fabulous new retreat over there because it is absolutely beautiful.
It is very cool.
Are you seeing even results even going faster just because it's just...
Oh, yeah. I tell people it's like when you're out there in the wilderness and just, you get down in the hollow, and just in and around the mix of, God's creation, many call it Mother Earth, but it's God's creation and just being out there and seeing the trees, the leaves fall right now. It's very relaxing for my staff and just, people actually can tell a difference in the tension in their bodies. A lot of people don't escape to the wilderness, the Lord, Jesus went away into the wilderness to pray, to fast, and do things. And so, it's actually very, very healing for people to get away.
Well, I know I get inspired really to go back and to use more natural construction project, I really do. I'm like, you know what? I would rather have a little log cabin, and just get rid of all this vinyl flooring and you know what I mean? All the stuff that's off-gassing that, we're just now, some of us are hearing about. A lot of people you're cool and you knew about it for a long time, but a lot of us other people are, trying to de-plasticize our homes and stuff like that. But yeah, I love going to the new place. It's just, it is fabulous.
Yes. Thank you.
All right. So, Wild Doc. We've had a lot of questions. There's a lot more people listening these days, which is super exciting. But, last week I had a couple people in a row actually bring up knee questions. And I thought, well, I think most of us have two knees. And so this could be a good topic for us because especially, I'm doing line dancing classes all the time now. And so that's one question that's always asking too.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, that would be a great topic to have on a Friday because we haven't talked about knees for a while, especially more like of a preventative standpoint. I know a lot of people get knee replacements and stuff like that, but I would rather tell people like when I hear people say, well, I've been told I have arthritis and that there's nothing you can do. And it's like, oh my goodness.
The bone osteoarthritis, yes, you have calcification of the soft tissue, which can then cause a little bit of tissue damage. But really, the knee pain itself is driven more through cellular chemicals, chemical messengers signaling the nerves that cause pain. So people can have bone on bone in joints. Good Lord was very intelligent. He didn't put a lot of pain receptors in our joints, but if we have an inflammatory process going on within that joint, that is a very prevalent reason, very common reason that you get the pain. So, now I'm not advocating for anti-inflammatory medications because that actually can cause tissue repair mechanisms to be too inhibited. That's why the use of ibuprofen and other NSAIDs can actually undo the good work of a good skilled surgeon. Let's say that somebody has to go through a surgery of some sort. Well, if they take ibuprofen afterwards, they can actually inhibit the tissue repair mechanisms in our body and thus actually cause a surgical failure. So that said, the research on, let's say, knee problems, knee osteoarthritis, they've actually done clinical trials where they took patients who had osteoarthritis, knee pain, told them they were going to do anything from orthoscopic surgery to knee replacement, and put the people under. Some of the people, the placebo group, they bandaged up their leg and never did a surgery. And they had just as many people feel no pain after the surgery, be in less pain and improvement as the surgical group, the actual surgical group. All they do is bandage up their knee. Power of the mind. a lot of people don't realize that mechanoreception, the belief and power within our brain, multiple neurological factors drive the sensation and feeling of pain. And we can block and inhibit that through neurotransmitter production, which can be affected by our beliefs, the tone of our nervous system in terms of our sympathetic, parasympathetic, So it's like if the placebo effect, and I'm always like, how in the world did that wake up and be like, my knee hurts so bad because I had surgery. But yet they were like, my knee is all bandaged up. And they had this belief that somebody did something to their knee. So therefore, the belief in that they had something done that was quote unquote told to them would work lessened their pain. They felt
are they
better.
still using the term psychoneuroimmunology?
Yeah.
On that. Okay. Because I remember when
That's in terms of other factors where you really get into psychoneuroimmunology is where, our beliefs, the statements, the power of the tongue, those factors play a big part in whether we can actually enhance the activation of our natural killer cells, which are very effective immune cells to help us ward off or prevent or beat cancer. So the belief that your body, it's almost like I've got papers in case reports where people, they prayed, they many would refer to it as meditation. I like to just say this strong belief and just focusing your mind on, imagining your soldiers as your immune cells or your soldiers, going after and attacking the cancer cells. And it had a very positive documented effect on an individual's immune system. And so, but if you convince people that they're going to have negative, that they're too weak, they're not enough, and that has a negative effect on their immune system. So that's where you get into more of the psychoneuroimmunology there.
Well, I was, my first degree was in psychology, and that was the area of it that I was most interested in. Cool. Yeah, so that was like, late 80s, and I remember there was a surgeon, Bernie Siegel, they used to really talk. I mean, he was a Christian. He would, pray with them too. Yeah. He would also tell them when they were under, I need your blood pressure to get to this number or whatever it was, and he had a lot of great success.
That's cool.
But anyways, I digress.
But, so when you look at that, again, what is the vast majority of people going through when they're like at that wit's end with pain? They're either using an anti-inflammatory pharmaceutical that typically will make the condition worse. That's like putting duct tape over a check engine light. Your car's going to blow up if you don't pay attention to the check engine light and start allowing and working, feeding your body correctly, and working on the biomechanics. One of the most common causes outside of a trauma, like a trauma to your knee, your football player, you took a hit to the knee. Obviously, that's the cause of the dysfunction in your knee, and that's going to cause the tissue damage. But a lot of people are succumbing to knee problems because they have rotation, they have scoliosis, so they have misalignments of their pelvis and lower back. And that is one of the most common causes of chronic osteoarthritis in the joints of our knees, our ankles, and things like that, because it alters the biomechanics, it alters the rotation of the femur if your hips and pelvis are not in good alignment. So I've worked with many people. I had one lady that I had worked with her, and what her kind of story was, she came in with severe migraine headaches, severe fibromyalgia, chronic pain, debilitating pain, basically all over her body. And we worked with her through chiropractic care, working on the alignment of her spine, working on her cervical spine, her upper cervical spine, which really helped her nervous system regulate the intensity of pain. So we saw results very early on in her case with her fibromyalgia and her migraines. And then over time, she had actually been through multiple back surgeries already and had fusions and succumbed to the 70% statistical risk of an increase in need for opioid use, because of fusion surgery. Fusion surgery has a higher likelihood of causing you to need more pharmaceutical drugs to treat pain and increasing your pain than it does in decreasing your pain. And so, but worked with her, and we saw results in a lot of the things, but she kept telling me, Dale, you're never going to do anything for my knees. My knees, they're completely bone on bone. I'm just waiting until I'm 65 years old because then Medicare will kick in and I'll be able to get a knee replacement. She started when she was 63, and I kept working on her, and I would adjust her knees and things like that. But she had that mindset, But despite the mindset, 2 years into working with her, and again, that wasn't 2 years to get results. That was 2 years to the point where she walked into my office and said, Dale, I'm 65, but I don't think I'm going to need my knee surgery anymore. She goes, I kid you not. We were able to go to church this last Sunday, and the church she loved was on a hill. So the parking lot was downhill. She had to walk uphill to go there. She says, I've not been to church for 2 years, but I finally was able to go back to church because my knees don't hurt anymore.
Wow.
And that was 2 years after she was told by a surgeon that she was bone on bone and would have to have complete knee replacement in both knees.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So I've got another gentleman right now. We're seeing reductions in his knee pain. He had an injury and surgery already for a torn ACL, and we've been adjusting his knee now, breaking up some of those adhesions and scar tissue that restrict appropriate fluid movement. When you have an injury and you have surgery to the knee, maybe to replace a ligament that's been completely torn, what happens many times is people don't go through the proper and appropriate physical therapy possibly to remobilize, stretch those tissues. And what happens is because of the inflammation from the injury plus the inflammation from the surgery, you get adhesions, that's scar tissue, all right? And without appropriate stretching and movement and alignment of that knee, especially even alignment of the hips and pelvis, that scar tissue builds up around that joint capsule or inside that joint capsule. And what that does is restricts appropriate circulation of synovial fluid through the joint. So you have to have proper movement, and you need to. This is why football players, they used to put them in these braces and cast their knee after surgery and hold them there, and then they figured out actually these guys were a lot worse off than if they put them through surgery and then immediately went into range of motion work with their knees. All right. And they would do range of motion, stretching, physical therapy that was in essence painful, but they needed to make sure that they lessened or reduced the amount of adhesions that would build up on the tissues where it should not, and restrict the fluid movement through that joint capsule or restrict the appropriate biomechanics of movement. So with adjustments to the knee, which are very simple, fairly painless, almost every patient says there's very limited or no pain during the process, and I adjust knees. And a lot of people see significant improvements in their osteoarthritic pain due to adjustments. Now, another therapy that we're including in our treatment now, we're using red laser therapy as well as violet laser. And that is known to affect the mitochondria cells. It reduces edema, swelling is what edema is, and then it reduces inflammation, and it actually stimulates the mitochondria to improve cellular tissue repair mechanisms. So it accelerates tissue repair. And I just brought it up here today, mechanisms, efficacy, and what they call it is photobiomodulation. So it's light, biological mechanisms, cells, and modulating or improving what those cells need to do. So it's enhancing your own tissue's repair capacity. And so by doing so, they show that infrared light therapy, low-level laser therapy, these aren't the lasers that they can burn houses down and stuff like that, with warfare, but it's these are so it doesn't heat the tissue up. All right. People say they feel a warming sensation, but it doesn't heat up tissue. It doesn't,
Now, is that the same red light therapy, the chambers that you had, or is this different?
So that I don't have chambers of red light there. Okay. People, they can purchase infrared light. And a lot of times those, like we have what is the device my wife likes to use just generally around the house? I don't know. She knows it, but it's a box, Loom box. And so, but the intensity and the energy of that infrared light is much lower. It has beneficial effects, but it's going to take you a whole lot longer than what it can take with a laser. A laser is much more focused, wavelength, higher energy. I can adjust the energy for kids, turn it way down, and I can turn it way up to use it. And what a treatment may, not even the equivalent dosage of red light with a 15-minute session with a lot of the red light therapies out there on the market. We can use a laser and get done in a 100th of the time, for the same dosage and the same stimulus to the mitochondrial cells within the tissues, and it will penetrate a whole lot deeper than your others. Now, there are devices out there, and if you wanted to avoid surgery and you wanted to give it a try, you could, or you could do something where you come into my clinic. We do restoration and correction of the alignment of your hips pelvis if that is a factor driving the improper alignment of your knee and driving the knee pain. We can help break up that scar tissue and adhesion through adjustments, remobilize the knee, and that will help. And then we can also add red laser in there. In that strong laser effect, after adjustments and things, is going to reduce that edema, that swelling, that tissue inflammation, and then speed wound healing. I have a gentleman who's a veterinarian, and we were using laser for his conditions, and he was like, man, I don't know why I didn't think about this, because he's like, as a vet, we use red laser all the time to improve wound healing in animals and even treat microbial problems and things like that. So, what we can do is we can improve the healing capacity of your body, and that's assisting the body in doing, because a lot of people are like, oh, once you've lost joint space, you can't get it back. You can to some degree, but even then, even if the joint is thinner, and even if it's got arthritis built up around it, arthritis doesn't guarantee pain. They show with spinal MRIs that 40% of the population is walking around with osteoarthritis. Certain segments of the spine have zero pain in that region. I see it all the time. God was very intelligent. He said, just because you injured a joint, those joints are weight bearing. If we had pain fibers, nerve fibers of pain inside of our joint, then we would always be in pain because we're always resisting gravity. It'd be like we'd have to lay down just to be out of pain. As soon as we stood up, put pressure on our ankles, our knees, our hips, our low back, our thoracic spine, our neck, every joint would be in pain. Saying, oh, that's heavy, and just exponentially more pain the more weight you gained. But there are people that are obese, overweight, and don't have back pain, don't have knee pain. You can do MRIs of their knees. Their knees look completely shot, but they don't have pain because there's nervous system mechanisms, and then there's also inflammatory and other substances like substance P that trigger pain reception through the nerves. And then there's muscle dysfunction that will oftentimes drive different various pain, but it's not the muscle's problem. The muscle is not the problem. Muscle can be the source of the pain sensation, but the muscle is having to work against a joint that is improper biomechanics or is like rusted gears. If gears are rusted, you're going to have to put a lot more force of muscle force into that crankshaft and crank that lever arm to get rusted gears to move. Well, let's break up those adhesions with mobility work, range of motion work, adjustments, restore, then lubricate the joints, and then accelerate cellular energy repair mechanisms so as to allow that tissue to regenerate to a point and stop those releases of substance P and other chemical messengers that then kind of diffuse into the surrounding tissue around the knee that get to the nerves and muscles and then drive the pain reception to the brain. So all of those mechanisms, man, it's been knee problems. It's not even like a large focus. It's just kind of like a common sense. Oh, we do this, this, and this. And I mean, people usually don't come to me for that, but it's like when they have it, and they're typically, most people are coming in for migraines. I have patients that come in for autoimmune because we do functional medicine and things like that. Many different reasons, but every time somebody mentions what all is going on, because it's holistic. It's the whole body, and so if they're there because they have a thyroid issue, they're there because they have a migraine, or they're there because they have back pain, I'm like, well, guess what? I'm going to help you with your shoulder arthritis. I'm going to help you with your knee arthritis. And I know that if your body is functioning better, you're going to feel better. So we're going to improve the function of everything from the cells of your body, the tissues, the muscles, the ligaments, the tendons, the joints, and your mindset.
That is awesome. We are talking to Wild Doc from Wild Roots Wellness. He is in Clarksville, but he is closer to us now, so we're very happy about that. We're going to have to take a quick break, and then we'll be right back.
At the UPS Store, we have everything to help small business owners be unstoppable. So if you need printing, we'll be the printing store.
I need help printing brochures. My at-home printer became self-aware.
Of course, the UPS Store can print... Wait, you said self-aware?
Yeah, one day it was saying it was low on ink, and the next it was saying it wanted to rule the world.
Weird. Well, whatever you need, we've got you covered.
The UPS Store can help small business owners be unstoppable with our printing services. The UPS Store. Be unstoppable. The UPS Store locations are independently owned. Product services, pricing, and hours may vary. See Center for details.
Compared to the... All right, we are back in studio. This is Lee Marie with a special edition Go Show. As you might know, I come on every first Friday, and we have Wild Doc here, and we're just so blessed with all his information. And I do want to mention a couple calendar items real quick, because I know that there's a lot going on this weekend, being that it is the first weekend of the month. So hopefully the weather will cooperate well with us, because we do have the first Friday market tonight in the downtown square, and so that kicks off at about 6 p.m. I will be outside of the Well, which is right next to Crossroads Christian Bookstore at 600 South Main. I'll have a booth set up there, so you can feel free to come on by, and if you have a flyer that you would like to be considered to be talked about on the Go Show, maybe you have an event at your church or something coming up, feel free to come on by and talk to me over there. Again, that's at 600 South Main. Basically, if you were at the historic courthouse and you look the other direction on Main, you will see a wishing well in the window, and that is where I hang out. And so that, again, is tonight at 6 p.m. They're going to have live music, about 60 or so vendors, food trucks, and all that. And then, of course, remember, tomorrow is the first Saturday of the month, which means the local GOP meets at Purpose Life Church right there at 805 Memorial Boulevard in Springfield. They are going to actually have a couple of the election people coming out from Robertson County. I believe Maynard and Chad are coming to talk about election integrity and the new voting machines and all that kind of stuff. So you can bring some great questions. This would be a special opportunity to talk with them. And let's see, right after that, 11:30 to 12, there's a group, and so you are more than welcome to meet with them. You're going to be praying for a half hour on the square. So prayer in the square, an informal prayer gathering from 11:30 a.m. to noon this coming Saturday. And then lastly, I do want to mention this coming Monday, because that is, Second Amendment meets on the second Monday, which means our Tennessee Firearms Association chapter will be having their monthly potluck. So we are going to have Christopher Brown come out. He's a critical care paramedic, and he is going to be talking about the Stop the Bleed program. We've had him in before, but it's been about a year, and it's always really good to make sure that you are well versed on that, because if there is an accident and you are bleeding out, you can save your life or save another life if you know how to respond. And we know that that's always a very traumatic time. So it's good that we have him come out at least once a year to train us, and he actually does a training there. And so this is a free event. All ages are welcome. It, again, is this coming Monday at the American Legion in Greenbrier, 2730 Highway 41. And 6 o'clock is the potluck dinner. 6:30 is when the program starts. And again, that's the Tennessee Firearms Association, the Robertson County chapter. All right, we are back with Wild Doc, who already has given us so much information that I'm going to have to replay this. And that's another thing too, guys. This not only is going out on the radio waves, but is also going out on Facebook and YouTube. And I know a lot of you know people that can benefit from this information. So please, right now, if you are watching on YouTube or on Facebook, share this and send it to people on Messenger, because they need to tune in and get this life-changing information. All right, Wild Doc, what else? Is there anything else on knees that you would like to cover?
I don't know about knees anymore. I think we've said it all.
All right, okay.
Before you go into the ninth, come to me.
Yeah. Well, I like what you said about, shooting the warning panel, and that's how so much of people have been trained. We've all been trained, like, oh, you got pain, oh, here's the Advil, here's the Tylenol. And nobody would take a gun to your dashboard if you were running out of oil and your oil lights coming on.
Duct tape, or take your broomstick to your fire alarm, smoke detector going off.
Exactly, and that's what people are doing.
It is.
And so it's so sad.
But that's the medical community right now. The pharmaceutical industry sadly it's messed up healthcare. It's disease maintenance care. It's not healthcare. It's not restorative healthcare. And I'm excluding the situations of trauma, injury, car accidents, things like that. We're talking about chronic illnesses, problems that arise because I tell people all the time, you're not changing your oil. If you chose to listen to, give you an example, I talked to some parents. So right now they're putting out statistics that 64% of U.S. children, young children, have a chronic condition.
Oh my God.
They're being diagnosed 64%. With a chronic health condition. Oh it's upwards of over 75% of our U.S. adults, the children that are turning 18 and young adults that would be military, age appropriate, will not be able to serve in the military.
Wow. Those numbers are scary.
And I'll tell you, I am raising very healthy children. And I, right now, with the way our government is acting, unless something changes, I'll tell them never serve a government like this because they're bought off. They're corrupt. They're listening to the big pharmaceutical industry. Did you hear that Kansas is suing? Thank God. Politicians there have some some guts. They are suing Pfizer for lying about the what that was forced on people over the last several years because they found out that Pfizer concealed data of serious harms.
Wow.
They committed fraud yet again in their research. Anyways, I digress from that. But the reality is right now, we had that many sick children in America. As a parent, I was asking a mom, actually as a grandmother, I apologize, because she's trying to speak to her daughter to help her daughter make a better decision because this child is having all kinds of health issues and just keeps going to medical physicians. And this little baby is suffering. She's like, I'm trying to get her in here, trying to get her to bring the baby in, and it's heartbreaking because they can't figure it out. They're not doing things to improve function. They're looking for what's wrong and not looking for what they can do right. And that's a big philosophical, but it's also a common sense. Like, why don't we do things that are good for your body? Why don't we look at the master control system, which is your central nervous system, and look at the spine that integrates? I mean, they have studies in children who are born, quote, healthy vaginal delivery of 100 babies, osteopathic physicians. These aren't chiropractors. Yes, I'm a chiropractor, but I'm saying this specifically and using their research because that way it's not a, hopefully you don't think that it's biased or the chiropractic community produced this to say that they're good in their theory on misalignments causing problems. No, osteopaths in hospitals showed that it was over 90% of children born vaginal delivery, quote, healthy with no trauma, quote, no trauma. All right. If you were squeezed through a tube and pushed from behind and your head had to like bore its way through, sorry to be kind of graphic, but it's like had problems and dysfunction, jammed up joints that weren't moving properly in healthy. And they show that children with what they call, and the term medically is somatic dysfunction. We simply kind of describe it as a misalignment or improper biomechanics, improper movement of your joints, all right? And these infants, these newborn babies, had somatic dysfunction in multiple regions of their spine. And they know that somatic dysfunction causes osteoarthritis. Somatic dysfunction causes nerve disruption and interference for the nervous system to communicate out to organs. Now, sometimes that dysfunction in those joints can be so significant that it can cause heart rate and respiratory problems and digestive issues. That's why they showed in osteopathic journals that in hospitals, when they allowed osteopathic physicians to go in, and I'm like, I don't care if it's an osteopath or it's a chiropractor, as long as they're laying hands on those children, adjusting their spines to enable better nerve supply out to those organs. What they showed is those children that were in the NICU spent way less time in the NICU, recovered much faster, had less complications, higher survival. Why have they not hired we had a patient, mother and father, gave birth to a child with Down syndrome. And because Down syndrome, oftentimes they have poor muscle tone and things like that. They have a weaker nervous system. This child was in the NICU. But they were like, you can't nurse, you can't hold the baby for so long, things like that. But they show that skin-to-skin contact, more sensory input, that alone, plus, why didn't they have an osteopath in there checking that child's spine, checking every child's spine? I don't understand it, with the evidence that shows children's lives could be saved. Children would spend less time in a NICU in a hospital and could recover faster, improve, because their nervous system, their brain, communicates better through a spine that is clear of dysfunction, clear of misalignments. Why not have an osteopath? Why not have a chiropractor clear that dysfunction? You follow me?
That makes so much sense. Wow.
It's like, why are we listening to the system that says drugs are the answer, drugs are the only way?
Right.
It's just, it's insanity. And I'm just always so frustrated and fired up about it.
Right. Okay. We have to take a break because it's time is flying by. All right.
Nothing can compare to the down-home customer service that you receive from a small-town, family-run drugstore like Southside Drug Company. Stop in and talk with the friendly staff. They've been specializing in hometown customer service for over 100 years. Store hours are Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., and Saturday, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. For more information, visit SouthsideDrugCo.com. Be sure to tell them Lee Marie sent you.
We are back in studio with Wild Doc from Wild Roots Wellness, and that ad that just ran was Southside Drug Store, which is in Springfield. And I wanted to make sure, and I'm bringing this up on my phone real here, Moringa Tree now has their cafe inside Southside. So when you go in, you look to the right where that cute little retro diner is. Moringa Tree is there. And so this is another great opportunity. I know that Wild Doc knows Gina Webb, and I know Gina has great respect for what you're doing. I know you guys have run into each other at conferences because they're kind of both on the same page. And she's coming from the nutrition side of it. And, you know, everything that I have eaten at Moringa Tree, I have absolutely loved. And I leave feeling good. And I know that the stuff that they're, you know, everything is organic and just clean. I wanted to mention that they are going to actually have a conference called The Art of Healthy Living, a seminar in real food and real health. And this is part 1 of 4. This is just a 1-hour class actually on Saturday, September 14th. It's from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. It's only $25. It's going to be right there at that cafe. And I heard that normally they're not open for food on Saturdays, but those people that are attending the seminar, I believe that they can get that. Yes, they can. So this is at 1000 South Main Street. I'm going to go ahead right now, and I'm going to share that on my Facebook page so that it's near the top. Probably the second thing up there on my page. So make sure you look at that. It's called The Art of Healthy Living. And I know that I've been learning a whole bunch of stuff from her on, on food, because so many people are eating things that are not food, and we don't realize that. I know, don't get you started, right?
Food-like items in America, and that's all subsidized by our government.
Oh, goodness. And I did want to mention too, as far as knees go, because joints in general, I know that I feel so much differently if I have been eating clean for that day versus if I have eaten junk food.
Well, that's one of the things. Osteoarthritic knee, they've done dietary studies that eliminating inflammatory foods in the diet actually improves knee pain better than surgery. Again,
see, listen to
so many better options.
Yeah. And I know because, for a while there, I kind of, went off the wagon food wise, and I was eating some bad stuff, and I wasn't taking my fish oil. And boy, I was going to bed and my knee was just so stiff. And then once I started eating clean again and taking my fish oil, it was like, okay, pain was absolutely gone. So I know that it was totally related.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't just all of a sudden get, some ligament, healed. It was actually, all of that inflammatory food and not lubricating the joints. So anyways, go in to Moringa Tree. Their hours, they have new hours now actually at Moringa Tree. They're now 11 to 4, Monday through Friday. So They used to be closed on Mondays, but I was like, you know what? Larry's is closed on Mondays. Why don't you open on Mondays? And they did. So I'm super happy. So you can go in and have some healthy food 11 to 4, Monday through Friday. And you don't have to feel guilty about it because they even have a chocolate peanut butter smoothie. It's really good. I know. And you don't have to feel dreadful about it. You won't feel dreadful when you leave. So anyways, all right, we are talking with Wild Doc. This is our favorite Friday. I'm going to start calling it Favorite Friday.
Right.
First Friday, because I learned so much from you, Wild Doc. I feel like I'm in Wild Doc University because, you just open your mouth. It's like, it's all out. That's why I have to go back and I have to listen to the show and take notes and be like, oh, yeah, because you just have, you're just pouring over all the information.
Yep.
And I wish that the, other medical community would do some of that. But you know what? You all can take, and that's what we need to do. We need to take our own health into our hands because no one is going to do it like we can do for ourselves. But with this information that you give people about, how this is better than surgery and this and that, because, the regular industry and the insurance company, God knows, they only want to cover things that they can, cut or burn and tests. That's one thing, I hear people, they go for so many tests because the medical people can't figure it out.
Yeah.
And I would be like, you know what, if you go to Wild Doc once, because they'll say like, well, my insurance doesn't cover that. I'm like, well, you know what, the gas money that you spend on going to 14 different tests, go to Wild Doc once and he'll tell you what's wrong. I mean, so many times you've done that for my friends.
Yeah. You just have to understand the way the body functions, the way it heals, understand the impact of diet, lifestyle, stressors, childhood traumas, physical injuries. Chiropractic looks at the identification, correction, and elimination of cause. And that comes down to the 3 T's, and that's thoughts, traumas, and toxins. So it's kind of like, what are possible stressors that affect your mind, your mindset? And that can go back to childhood traumas, things like that can cause and cause your pain to be way higher than it should be. Kind of like with fibromyalgia, understanding the neurology of pain, the neurology of function of the organ systems of your body. And again, traumas that can be physical injuries, especially those that impact the spine, car accidents, sleeping wrong, bad posture, looking at a computer all day long, things like that, children with text neck. All these things cause problems in the spine. Correction of those, and you have better flow of the communication, the energy of nerve impulses from your brain to your body, your organs. I mean, for your heart to beat, your lungs to breathe, for you to digest food, a signals, constant signaling between your brain and that organ has to occur. And it flows down your spinal cord, out the nerves, through little foramens between the bones of your spine. And when those bones are out of alignment, that improper alignment, improper biomechanics alters the nerve signaling. All right. Even they show the weight of a dime can alter the nerve signaling by up to 60% in its tone. And that alone is going to cause enough dysfunction that eventually that dysfunction leads to disease. Chiropractors correct dysfunction. So when you understand what is the dysfunction, and again, mechanical, biological, chemical, toxins, all those things, and then the neurological stressors, environmental stressors, you just take all that into account. And what I tell people is, when I have discussions with people, it's so easy for me to figure out causes usually because all I have to do is listen to my patients, listen to what they've been through, listen to what their symptoms are. And a lot of times I ask people, you give me a timeline. When did this start? And a lot of times they'll tell me and I'll be like, okay, what were the stressors around that time? And again, that's a general broad term, incorporating thoughts, traumas, toxins. Again, going back to mindset, going back to physical injuries that can alter nerve supply, and then toxins and chemicals. So was there an exposure to a toxin? Was there an injection of a toxin? Was there an exposure to a major stressor in life, a loss of a loved one, a divorce, a childhood, trauma, things like that? If it started then, all right, there we have a major contributing factor. Now, how do we figure out how to improve the function of your brain, your nervous system, your body? How do we feed it the right things? What do we need to feed it? And that's how we correct your body's function, restore the healing, restore the function, and you get well. Medicine always looks to label problems. Label it, diagnose it, give it a term, a fancy dancy name, and then give you a drug. Like that's 90+% of the way our healthcare system runs and works is, oh, we've really got to figure out, you got a lot of inflammation in your joints. But, you know, I had a patient here recently. She's like, you know, I've gone through all these testings. I keep having positive ANA, but I have horrible hand and joint pain. I don't yet have the deviation of all my knuckles, so I don't have the signs of rheumatoid arthritis in my joints. My rheumatoid factor is low, so low that it's not positive. So they tell me I don't have rheumatoid arthritis, but I have like classical early symptoms. And so they're telling me they don't really know how to treat me. And I'm just like, what do you mean they don't know how to treat you? You obviously have inflammation and pain. So is it neurological? Is it chemical? Let's figure that out. Or is it trauma? Did you punch somebody? Did you actually fall on your hands? No.
I'm so glad that you said exactly what chiropractors do, you know, because so many years, you know, people were raised thinking like, all they do is they crack your neck, you know, it's just, you just go if you have, you know, neck pain or, you know, back pain or whatever. And it's like so not true. And I want a shirt that like says, you know, my favorite healers are chiropractors. Because I'm thinking right now, like my favorite 3 healers are all chiropractors. And I will go to them for anything except for like, you know, if I need, you know, if a broken bone or, you know, some severe, you know, surgery, you know, first aid.
Yeah,
But
if
for
you have a
everything
trauma,
else,
it's like, thank God for a skilled surgeon with skilled hands that's capable of sewing you back together if need be. God forbid you have to have that. But it's like the restoration of the normal function of your body that includes biomechanics, the movement of your joints, which have a positive impact on your nervous system tone, which the nervous system is the system that God designed to run and control every other system. One of the things I tell people, they'll be like, oh, your heart isn't beating correctly. So one of my staff members, Ashley, her dad had multiple ablations. That means they go in, they fry portions of his heart to the point where they had to walk out in the waiting room and talk to his wife and say, there's nothing more we could do if we burn any more areas of his heart. We just keep chasing this irregular nerve impulse signal that's going to regions of his heart. And it just keeps changing. Every time we burn that area, this starts firing improper. We burn that area. It starts firing irregular over here. We burn that area. They had to tell her we can't burn any more of his heart because if we do, he's going to die. And left him go home after they damaged him more. How is killing part of your body, like, how do people accept that as treatment? I just don't fathom it. Let's kill part of your heart. I think it's misfiring. Well, what controls the firing rate? You know, it's like, oh, the firing in that cylinder is off in your car. Let's just go ahead and like put a bunch of cement in there and bust up the piston and dislodge that. And I'm like, you know, that's the analogy. Why don't you look at the timing belt? Why don't you look at the wires that carry the spark and how they're controlled by the computer and make sure that everything's timed correctly, sending the appropriate amount and time of signal? They never do that. They literally say, oh, the nerves are firing improperly. Well, why don't you work on improving the nerve firing?
Oh, how frustrating.
Yeah.
All right. I have to do one more
like
break.
Like U-Turn Laverne's husband. His heart has, and the problem is, people come to me after tissues have been burnt and damaged, and which makes and creates more dysfunction. You know, U-Turn Laverne's, Mark has actually seen improvements in his heart function after chiropractic adjustments in my office. Ashley's dad has seen improvements in his heart function. It does keep going out. But again, I can improve nerve impulse, but if you've had parts of your heart burnt and damaged, then there's going to be some level of dysfunction because your body thinks, I need to send signals to this region of the heart because it's not contracting like it should. So it's trying to send signals where it can no longer get a contraction of the heart muscle because some cardiologist burnt your heart. Killed it.
Now, does any of that oxygen therapy help some of that rebuild tissue?
So cardiac tissue is a whole lot harder, it seems, to rebuild, but hyperbaric oxygen therapy has been shown to help protect the heart and improve cardiac, like the adhesions, the scar tissue, and repair mechanisms to some degree. Yes. Man, I'm glad you asked about hyperbarics, because that was one of the things I thought of earlier, that we're entering into football season, and I've already had 2 young football players suffer concussions and come to me for treatment. All right. One, you can't take a concussion and not injure your cervical spine. If you take a blow to your head, the next area of your body connected to your head is your neck. You are going to injure your neck 100% of the time, they show. So correction of misalignments and the jamming up of those joints corrects imbalances that can exacerbate or make the brain trauma way worse. So you can improve blood flow and circulation, reduce edema and swelling through chiropractic adjustments to those joints, and helps the cerebral spinal fluid flow and the cerebral blood flow so that those tissues can oxygenate and heal after a trauma like a concussion. But one of the most effective treatments that is out there for concussion, and here's the reality, I did a video on this. I'm on Instagram, Wild Roots Wellness. On Instagram, we did a video with one of the boys because of his rapid recovery with his balance coordination. His symptoms subsided much faster. Typically, they're estimating 30 days or so for symptomatology to go away. And the medical community is just a watch and wait. Let's see if it goes away on its own. But they show with a concussion, even mild traumatic brain injuries, mild concussions, there's some level of permanent, quote, permanent damage to the neurons of the brain. If you have a concussion, you have dead neurons. All right. The problem is with a concussion, you can have some level of bruising and inflammation of the brain. And that inflammation and bruising in hypoxic, meaning low oxygenated environment, because the blood flow and blood vessels have been slightly damaged, even in a mild concussion, that can cause more damage than what would be necessary if we reoxygenate that area or reduce the edema and swelling or improve the cerebral spinal fluid flow. So with hyperbaric oxygen, here's a study in front of me. This is published in 2022, systematic review of dosage analysis, hyperbaric oxygen therapy efficacy in mild traumatic brain injury, persistent post-concussive concussion syndrome. They showed that hyperbaric oxygen therapy had statistically significant improvements in symptomatic and cognitive improvements, or in cognitive improvements alone were achieved for patients treated with 40 HBOT sessions at 1.5 atmospheres, ATA. They said symptoms were also improved with 30 treatments and 1.3 ATA, air only, but there was negative results with 1.2 ATA, air only, and there was significant negative results with those using 2.4. That's 2.4 times the atmospheric pressure we are at right now. And in conclusion, they showed that randomized controlled trials show that hyperbaric oxygen therapy is an effective treatment for post-concussive syndrome, persistent post-concussive syndrome. So to me, I'm like, we know the mechanisms that take place: inflammation, damage, vascular, microtrauma. Why not get in there, like I said, with this boy, and we're going to do things that facilitate reoxygenation, reperfusion of that tissue, reducing inflammation and swelling, thus reducing the process of further and increased tissue damage beyond what we could do if we didn't implement those. So if a child's going to choose to play football, choose to play soccer, choose to play a sport, or just choose to ride a bike and has a head injury, to me, it should be standard care to say, what can we do? They even show photobiomodulation, the use of red laser. That was another thing that we implemented in his case to reduce inflammation, swelling, and improve blood flow and circulation so that we can actually reduce the amount of permanent damage. Because the brain is very amazing in its ability to heal and rewire. I'm not saying like permanent damage is going to result in a permanent disability, or a lack of memory and, amnesia. I'm saying if you have microscopic permanent damage to some of the areas of the brain, and then you have another one and another one, that's why a lot of times it becomes harder and harder for a child or individual to heal from, quote, heal from multiple concussions. The accumulative effect of multiple concussions is where you get in trouble. So let's say this boy had a concussion like he did, and we just let him go through the standard medical, system where symptomatic improvement occurs in, 75% of those children, individuals with concussions within 30 days. But the amount of cumulative damage was 10% rather than 5% because we didn't use hyperbarics, we didn't use red light therapy, we didn't use chiropractic. The persistence of neck problems then persists with problems with cerebrovascular flow and cerebral spinal fluid flow. So you have all these like persistent negatives, but he symptomatically seems better. But now he's with 10%. We could have had half that. If we implemented strategy. Both of them symptomatically are better 30 days later, but then both these boys now have a second concussion. We implement hyperbarics, red light therapy, chiropractic, ways to reduce inflammation, the amount of damage. So 5% more for the first kid with the treatment strategies. He's now only at 10%. The other boy, standard medical, let's watch and wait. He's at 10% more. Now he's at 20%. He's double the amount of damage. Another go around. But what happens with concussions is the more damage you have, the more likely you have a acceleration of increased amount of damage upon the next concussion that may be the same or less of a amount of impact.
Wow.
The degree of impact could be less, but the damage is more because the accumulative effect is multiplying each time we have a concussion.
Well, this is really good information because, we are just in the beginning of the football season. So we're going to share this to all the football parents out there, too. All right, we need to do one more break. We are talking to Dr. Dale Brown from Wild Roots Wellness in Clarksville. Give the information for your address.
931-591-2010 is the phone number there. Again, that's 931-591-2010. And we're located at 755 North Woodson Road off Exit 11 in Clarksville, Tennessee.
Excellent. All right, let's do our last break.
Ridgetop Mower provides lawnmower repair, parts and service, pickup and delivery, and free equipment removal. Open 8 to 5, Monday through Friday, 8 to 12 on Saturday. Ridgetop Mower is located at 1101 Matthew Street in the heart of Springfield. Call Gary at Ridgetop Mower, 615-855-0044. That's 615-855-0044. And be sure to tell him Lee Marie sent you. Ridgetop Mower.
All right. We are back with Wild Doc. We have just a few minutes left. Oh, this was great. I am so glad that you ended up talking about football injuries because, football is so huge here in the South, So this could really totally be a life changer.
I love the game rugby, and that's way more traumatic than, football. I mean, the thing about rugby, a lot of times because they don't have a helmet, they won't leave with their head. So there's somewhat level of a reduction in the risk of head injuries. But man, I mean, my boy wanted to play that. He plays soccer. He loves soccer. My little girl, Magnolia, she loves gymnastics. There's risks there. But it's reducing the amount of damage. It's helping them heal correctly if they are injured. It's taking those small micro injuries seriously and checking my little girl's spine on a weekly basis. So if she did fall, she's falling every day at gymnastics. I guarantee it. My boy is playing hard. They don't allow them to head the ball at his age because they saw that heading a soccer ball, which I thought was no big deal when I was younger, they allowed me. I mean, look at my brain now. Amazingly, God's like, you know what, Dale, I need you to heal people, so I'm going to leave your brain not have the accumulated damage of all those headers.
I was going to say, I can't imagine you being any more smarter, Come on.
I've also got in my own hyperbaric chambers, so maybe that's helped me too there,
Well, no, and that's great. Yeah, because there's kids in all types of sports. And I almost fell yesterday getting out of the back of the pickup truck.
I'm not the helicopter parent where it's like I need to put my kids in a bubble. I'm wanting them to explore the world. We got to let our children do dangerous things carefully. Jordan Peterson says that. Love the way he says that. And it's just, you just got to do things to help their body function better, lessen the risk of injury. And then if they do, you do the things that God's given us knowledge of and use the things, the medicines, the laying on hands, the oxygen, red light therapy. He made our cells to respond to red light therapy for that reason, so that we can heal faster and reduce the accumulative damage to our
And I know too, you have a lot of herbs over there, and you can prescribe tinctures and things like that, which I know have helped our family.
Yeah, it's God's medicines. He said, let fruit be for food and leaves be for medicine.
Well, I still can't forget when, Stephen had that cough for 3 months or whatever. Yeah. And you're like, get in here. And you adjusted him. You gave him a tincture. And in 24 hours, he didn't have the cough again. I'm like, we went through this for 3 months.
Yeah.
Why?
And that's the thing is that was the regimen that worked for your husband. Right. My son, Axel, has had pneumonia. He's just caught these cruddy coughs, and being an infant, he's kind of dealt with somewhat of a cough, a little bit more persistent. Little infants, they can't clear it. Been adjusting him. Wife is breastfeeding and eating an amazing diet, but it just kind of persisted. When we purchased the red laser and the violet laser, it has antimicrobial effects. And I tell you right now, we started doing that for him, which again gave his cells of his lungs more energy and has helped him just completely. He has not had a cough for the last 2 weeks. And it was like we would get one and it just take his body a little bit longer and things like that. We've never had needed medication, anything like that. But his poor little body has been through so much. This world is going through so much. So many people are going through so much. And so it just helped him recover much faster from this last cough and crud that was going on.
Very good. Awesome. All right. We have had Dr. Wild Doc on. And one more time, give your phone number, because people are like, all right, that's it. I'm making an appointment.
Awesome.
So what's your phone number?
931-591-2010.
And you're also on Instagram?
Yes. Wild Roots Wellness is our office page, and I'm the Wild Doc on Instagram.
And then, of course, you have a website as well. So.
Yep.
And then you have a nurse practitioner?
Yes, we do. We provide primary care, holistic, health coaching, functional medicine, all of the things. So if you want to be pharma free, you come to me.
Pharma.
There we go. I like that. Yes, I just thought about it. You want to be pharma free, you come to me.
Okay, now that is pharma, not farmer.
Yeah, right. Sure we like farmers. We got Amish farmers that bring us milk and butter and all that. And he does regenerative farming. We got a great source if you're looking for some good nutritional advice as well as sources.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Wild Doc. I really appreciate you coming in. And we will see you guys all next Friday. Well, actually, the first Friday of every month is when we have Wild Doc on. So that's when you can catch it. But you know what? He's got a lot of great videos. You can watch past shows. Just go to the WSGI Facebook page, or, WSGI now has a phone app for both Android and iPhone. So you can watch past shows, and you can also listen to our cool music that happens now. We have good old gospels. You can hear some bluegrass and country gospel. So give us a tune and go ahead.
November 1st, that Friday, I won't be here next Friday.
Okay.
So it would be
like the 3rd, or what is that?
Yep.
4th?
So it would be, yep. So
okay.
I'll be here next month, October, but November 1st, I will not be. Okay. I'll be out in the mountains of Idaho.
All right. Well, thanks for the heads up. All right. Y'all been listening to 1100 WSGI. Make it a great day.